beautiful.
It's a beautiful shot.
It is.
Bill Clough, he was the person that took that picture. He's a very fine photographer.
Let's take a look at the first painting.
My father loved trains. He loved to watch them. He would stand still and just watch them go by, you know. And I kind of did the same thing. And there's a lot to them, you know, the sound, the distance, and then that light coming out of dark and just rushing by. A lot of drama and the old trains. This is the first one in the book here, and it's basically a train going by, and this is an arched picture of the engineer peering out the window.
Your perspective is different there.
Oh, of course, it's not realistic. It's not realistic, but it's, in a sense, I would say it's visually realistic, because as I watched it, the train would come, but I would also, even though it's going by at a particular speed, would also focus on the engineer.
The heart of the machine.
The heart of the machine. You have the human element, you have the figure, and then the machine itself, the train, going by. And I just put them together. It's not realistic, but it is in a different way. I mean, you can see the inside the cab, and you see the engineer, and you see the outside. It's like, which is what we do, I think, when we watch things like this.
The eye focuses in.
The eye focuses in close, and then we see the outside, or vice versa.
Okay, let's see the next picture.
It's a true image, true process, I should say. This is a series.
Almost looks like a woodcut.
It is a woodcut, exactly, and it's of Abraham Lincoln. And it's one that I made, you know, it's my own image of it. But he's one of my favorite people, Abe Lincoln. And I think he's, I consider him one of our greatest poets. You know, when you read his speeches, they're really great poems to me. And the wording, the way he used words, and what we know of him, you know, he was close to being like an American prophet, kind of, to me.
Let's go to the next picture.
Sure. This is ancestral image. And what I did here, when I was thinking about this painting, I was wondering what image is there in Judaism, you know, central image in Judaism that would be comparable to the painting of Jesus in the Christianity, that type of universal image of a whole religion. And this is what I came up with, a man carrying the Torah, and he's got his tallis and here, and then this is a painting of the Torah, and he's carrying it just lovingly, almost like a baby, and through time.
What's our next painting?
Okay, let me get it here. These are people in a bus. Another one of my themes. And people in cars and buses, and they move. You know, I always like to stand and watch the cars go by, or I would stop when I'm watching a red light, and it changes and the cars move, and then they disappear and others come. These things are like visions to me.
The colors are spectacular.
Thank you. But of course those are made up, but these are the real color of the Austin buses at that time. They were the yellow and the green, and
sort of an orange there?
It's an orange, but I think they were not necessarily.
The people's faces are
but
fantastic.
The people's faces, I would stand and walk in the streets in San Antonio and just watching them. And
Let's go to our next painting.
yeah. I get these things. Blessings of Shade, I think it is.
Okay.
Blessings of Shade.
Let's go to our next painting.
This was a man I saw on a street corner, and it was interesting. We were downtown, or in San Antonio or something, and I was talking with my father, my dad, and we were talking, but I also noticed sitting on a bench in the background was this man. And it was a majestic figure. He was large like this. I looked like him. But in my mind's eye, I made a drawing of him and I made a painting of him. But
He looks powerful.
yeah, he has a powerful physique.
And yet he's got a cane.
He's got a cane. He was blind. He was blind. I never talked to him. I didn't talk to him, but he was just sitting there like a sculpture, really. You know, and it was a noble posture. You see what I mean?
I do.
A certain strength.
Let's go to our
beyond
next
the
painting.
physical. Yeah.
Oh, we know this one.
This is the Torah reading from the Torah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an actual reading of it, and these were most of them were taken from people I knew in our congregation. Torah is here. And I have them, which will not be real in real life, but I have them sprouting greenery, sprouting plants. So the Torah is a giver of life. It's a metaphor for the giving of life. And so it's the sprouting plants up here. And that would be my own. You won't see that in the synagogue particularly.
All right. That's your artistic
Our
interpretation.
license, license they call it, but it's.
Oh, this is dramatic.
This is one of my favorites. A lot of people have liked this one. It's called "Woman on a Bench." Yes, and I saw this in San Antonio, sometimes in the summer or something, and you'd see this elderly person. And she was just sitting on this bench, and it was this kind of bench. It has, there's a word on there, but I can't read it now. Bread. This is an advertisement on the bench for, it was buttercrust bread or something. I just painted it on there. Of course, it comes out backwards, but and it's kind of, and you can see the shape of a loaf of bread here, and B-R-E-A-D, all backwards. And that's very elemental painting. But you saw that, a lot of poverty in San Antonio. And here...
this is the changing of the tractor tire.
Exactly. It's not a
You know, that's a great study in size and shape and energy.
Oh, yeah. And
He must have been at that for a long time.
Oh yeah, it's and then there's other guy in the background, two people. If you look.
Okay.
See, there's one down here, another man with a hat here.
Let me see that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are. I didn't notice those.
I like the things that are not seen right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I build those when I see it possible to do that. I like to, and these are also people in that are like this in that type of scene.
Let's look at our next painting.
Okay.
Oh, the colors here are magnificent.
Yeah, that's a big painting. That's about 5 feet by 6. It's my biggest size that I do, and it's huge.
And where is that painting today? Or do you
I think
know?
I have it at home somewhere.
Okay.
But
the colors here.
The colors are.
What are we looking at? What is?
Okay,
where was that?
this was when I went it's a combination of canyon scenes. When we went, I think it was in West Texas or New Mexico, and I'd love to see these cliff formations in these different areas. And this is kind of a combination of them.
Mm-hmm.
Some have a small, have a delicate quality, and others are, but it has a rhythm to it. They're all thrusting up. It's like an earthquake, which I didn't plan it that way. But those big forms are kind of shaking around, which is part of what I liked. Because
it's dramatic and dark.
Yes,
and it's colorful. That's
but it's
an
very
unusual
colorful
combination.
Yeah, it's very colorful. It's got reds, and then you have that sky and the green, and there's almost a little fearfulness in it.
Yes.
But that's one of my best landscapes, really.
What's next?
This is a type of grasshopper and another, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like this skeletal form,
Yes.
shell-like form of a type of insect, cicada. Cicada is the name of it. And they are green. When they grow up green, they're about this big.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just beautiful. They have these wings, and then there's green, and then they're like goggles here.
Yes.
They just have a majesty to them, and they're little bitty things. Their name in Spanish is called chicharrones, because the sound that they make is a scratchy chicharron, and they make a loud sound, and they start around. I think it's in the summer where we'll see those.
Yes. Let's look at your next painting.
Yeah, sure.
Ah, there's the tractor theme again.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I think you got it.
This is the cleaning the plow. That's what it is.
Cleaning the plow.
Yeah. There you see the guy, tractor driver, and these other people, and they're cleaning
the blades or
the blades, and with whatever vegetation is on there. I think they might just be cleaning up the debris of plants, but it's a moving scene.
Mm-hmm.
In other words,
usually that's in motion, but here they're stopped for a special
they're
procedure.
stopped. They're stopped, but it's actually a moving scene, because he's looking backwards. This tractor is going forward, and this one is cleaning the plows off.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of activity, but of course it's not physical motion. It's just, but if you see it, you've seen this.
There's a grandeur to that cab rising up.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that, because that's how I feel about them. The whole thing has a kind of different kinds of grandeur to them. The tractors is coming in, and then this man is looking away, and this one is working that work process.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to our next page.
Is here. This is another plowing scene.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, this
sort
is
of a cubist feel to
Oh
it.
yeah, I've used cubist elements in my work to show different things going on at the same time.
What are we looking at?
This is farmer, and it looks like he's gathering up the grains here, and here is a scene where they're plowing the field. So it could be two different things.
Merged.
This is harvesting, and this could be called harvest, because he's cutting, but then here again they're harvesting.
Lovely. What's our next page?
This one is cow and calf.
And what type of cow is this?
It's a Brahma, some kind of a Brahma, akin to, and when I exaggerated the horns, and his cow is looking at its calf, and then the tail is up there. Oh, but they're all moving together, all moving in their space, each one, each being. This is a scene from praying in a cathedral, Catholic. It was maybe during the Christmas time or something, but I watched them.
I like the way there's a little peak of white above.
Yeah, that would be. That would be the loincloth, and this is the figure of Christ, and these are the people kneeling in prayer. And of course,
and they're so dark, but the white really contrasts with their faces.
Yeah, and the way they come out of the dark, but they're right in almost middle, whereas these are dark. It's almost black, white, and then a middle tone there. And this is a favorite of mine because I would watch these people, and I'd go in churches and holidays, and I would just watch, and then make drawings and paintings. And the devotion element is very powerful.
What's our next one?
Same thing, actually, maybe a different version, kind of. Yeah, but it's the same theme. And here's a candle, a votive candle. And if you look close, you can see the mitre of a priest here, and a cross, and then the people kneeling and praying. And I saw a lot of that in Mexico, and it was so striking. Half in the dark and then the light.
Dramatic.
Yeah, it was dramatic.
What's our next one?
Here, I'll just go.
That's sculpture.
This is a painting of a man, flower vendor. And I saw, these are all things that I've seen. I saw this man, and he was a flower vendor, and he was carrying this wagon full of flowers. But the whole thing, to me, it has a religious sensibility to me. The slow movements and the plants and his posture has a prayerful aspect to it.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Who's this?
This is a friend of mine. Folden was her name. I think she was a student in my class years ago. And a picture of her came out so nice.
Compelling eyes.
Yeah, the eyes and the hair. And this is a double. Trying to see if there's another page here. Yes, there is. There's another clay figure, a woman with folded arms. These are all from people that I would see and sketch, and then I'd make sculptures from them.
Let's go to our next one.
Sure.
We had a sneak peek of her. She's dramatic.
Oh yeah, this is a young black girl. And she might have been in one of my classes, I think. But she had wonderful features. So strong features.
What's our next painting?
This one is here. I call this one Goat Boy.
Goat Boy.
Yeah, I saw this. Also, it's very dramatic because I would go out in places and fields and everything, and I would see what was going on. And here was this young boy with his herd of goats. And it was just so striking because, it looks like something out of 100 years ago or 200 years ago. This is what you'd see. A little boy herding goats.
Tending his flock.
Tending his flock. It's actually a biblical painting,
Oh, what do we have here?
This is a Torah reading, and the ritual here is called Hakbah, the Hebrew word, and it's a part of the service. In the middle of the service, and they start reading the Torah, and they'll hold it up in the air, and then they'll walk in a walk in a circle, walk around through the congregation. They'll take it through the It's actually a very dramatic service. A lot of drama in it. They're singing, the cantor is singing, the congregation's singing, and they're walking with this Torah into the congregation, and they're singing. And you can see here these are what they call the finials when they put over the candles. And the crown, when this is rolled up, before it's unrolled, it would have these finials here, and it would have a breastplate like this in front of the Torah. When the Torah is covered, and you'd have the silver breastplate and silver finials. It's very dramatic, and little bells. Would be little tinkling bells. It's one of my favorite scenes, favorite rituals, because it's got musical sound and voice and everything. This is a street crossing.
I like that.
Now this is people crossing the street, probably in San Antonio, and you see different types of people, like you do. I used to watch that when I was in San Antonio, and the red light would be on. When the light changed, you have all these different people crossing the street, and that's what this is. There's a little girl and her mother, anonymous people, but they're
the colors are so happy looking.
Oh yeah, they are happy looking. The yellows and golds. I like that little black girl's face. Yeah, I love doing those things. This is Mariachis.
Yes. Where was this?
I think in Austin. It was done in, I think, either Austin or San Antonio. But I've seen them all my life. But this time I had a chance. This was when I was in Austin, I think when I was still in college, I believe, or shortly afterwards. Many times you would see these mariachis. And I finally did this painting of them, and that was, I think, when I was teaching, because I'd see a lot of mariachis, and then the drawings of them. This is the main painting that I did of it, and it came out really nice. You see, they got more hats than there are people there, but just made it that way.
I like that. This is the vendor with the colorful fruit.
Yeah, this is the melon vendor. Got the watermelons and the cantaloupes. Vendor. That's his son sitting there, I guess. Actually came across this thing. Couldn't resist it. He was sleeping there. It is a beautiful painting, I think. It's a lot of fruit. It goes back in space.
His face is in shadow, but it's
this one?
Yeah, I like that.
Oh yeah, but it's visible, actually.
That's right.
Pretty visible.
But it's not the main focus.
No.
It's that beautiful fruit.
It's the fruit, and then him in the hat, and the whole scene of the mesquite trees. They have a certain green to them. That's one of my favorites.
Maybe we should end with
this one?
a nighttime one, but let's do this one first.
Was this a night?
No, this is good. What is this one?
Wait, didn't we pass that?
No.
This is it. This is the scene you're looking at.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And this is a scene from Mexico, when I was studying in Mexico. And you would see many figures like this. They would be kneeling with the baby, usually very poor people. And this was in San Miguel, Allende. And I would just walk around in the streets there and draw my drawings of the people, and then I would make some of them into paintings. And this one developed into a painting, and they would sit in front of these buildings. They would have this, not necessarily exact coloring, but they would often paint a green or a red lower part. And they wore these heavy sandals. And I exaggerated that. I exaggerated the sandals. And
Let's go
face.
to the next
Okay.
painting, which is maybe we can end on it. It's
Okay.
the night.
You want to see a different one? This is a girlfriend of mine years ago, and this is a photograph of the picture. And this is another sculpture of mine, and she is wearing these, what do they call them, curlers. Mm-hmm. And she's also looking in a mirror here. Oh, I kind of like that she's looking at herself in a mirror, this sculpture.
That's an interesting.
It's
Who
an
would have
interesting
ever
concept.
thought of that?
It's an interesting concept.
She's looking at herself.
She's looking at herself in a mirror, and she's not a living thing. It's just interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. This is the one.
This is the one. This is cotton picking at night. Midnight harvest, I think this is the name of it. And I've seen these things. Yeah, like at midnight, and they'll be harvesting some of the cotton or the leftover cotton.
I love the sky here too.
Oh yeah, it's so. And then you'd have these machines coming along behind and in front. This is one of my, as you can see, a figure here. The more you look, the more you see of it. But this is one of my favorite scenes because you got everything there. You got moonlight, full moonlight, and then it's shining, and then you have these vehicles. And they make, have you ever been in a field like that?
I have actually. I camped one night, and I in the field, in the middle of the night, I heard, and I saw lights in the distance. Yes. And then the lights were getting closer and closer.
Closer. That's it. And it's not a loud sound. It's kind of a purring sound. And then
but they're massive inside.
Oh, they're massive, and they wave a little bit. They move in the wind gently, very gently, and then they come up, and then they go by. But they look like bugs, like giant living things, because of those lights shining in front of them. And it's one of my favorite scenes, and especially at night.